The Art of Persuasion by Jason Nielsen. Some of the most important factors of persuasion in the field of marketing. You need to know the demographics of your target audience. You must also reflect your target audience's dialect. Not everybody in the United States speak English the same way. It's the same for every other language in the world, especially if you're doing business internationally. You needed to allow for multiple languages for all related materials. Understand the social and financial status of the target audience. There are certain things that you should not market to certain financial statuses. It's all in an effort to make yourself more relatable, because the more relatable you can be to your target audience, the more persuasive you can be to that audience. Language barriers. According to the Journal of Consumer Psychology, U.S. marketers have rushed to build websites to attract and retain prospective local and international consumers and customers. Little attention has been devoted to considering the impact of presenting websites in a consumer's second language. This is especially important if you're doing business internationally, as I said earlier. Not everyone in the United States has had English as their first and primary language. Some learn Spanish or a litany of other languages first. Some are very traditional with their families. And this is especially important, as I had said, if you are doing business internationally. It's also especially important considering your advertising space and time on radio or television or even in person is very limited as far as your time is concerned. So if you are going to read something and you only have a 30-second advertisement window, it might be easier for that person to read it in their first language. Can't always assume that all of your consumers or all the people you're trying to persuade are going to look at English as their first language, is going to be able to read it as fast as they would their primary. The persuasion knowledge model. According to the Journal of Consumer Research, the persuasion knowledge model, short PKM, stresses that persuasion is a dynamic interaction between the persuasion agent and the target. It's a relationship that's formed over a short period of time. You need to be able to understand the needs of the person you're speaking to. You can't always speak to everybody in the same way, in the same tone, with the same body language even. Every person you deal with through advertisements or in person when you're trying to persuade them is going to receive your information in a different way and in a different state of mind. Even the same person on different times in the same day could react to the information you give them in a different way. Certain words that you say could be triggers to something else that they've done earlier that day or later on in the day. The ability to empathize with the target audience is crucial for understanding their needs and how you can fulfill them. That brings us to a broader point of empathizing. Distinct difference between empathy and sympathy is having empathy for somebody is understanding their situation, being able to put yourself in their shoes. If you're able to do that, you're able to understand what that person's needs are, what their priorities are, the way they're going to look at your product, the way that they're going to look at you for trying to persuade them to whatever it is that you're doing. According to the Journal of Cognition of Emotion, the available research reveals that a person's emotions, whether stemming from persuasive messages, an attitude object, or incidental contextual factors, program that can influence, evaluate judgments through multiple cognitive and metacognitive processes. To state it a little more simply, there is a litany of information that is out there today. The way someone receives what you're saying to them, the way someone who's going to react to the way you're trying to persuade them can be persuaded by so many different variables throughout the day that we all interact with. You have to understand your audience's mood and adjust your tone, your speech patterns, your body language accordingly to avoid miscommunications. The biggest way people It's the worst thing in the world to know that someone has a need, you can fulfill it, and it's within their means, but you miscommunicate because you're just not on the same page. You need to use multiple types of advertisements and different approaches to each situation to achieve different effect on your audience until you find the most effective one for that specific demographic. As I have stated before, a lot of people are going to receive your information in a lot of different ways. So it is best for you to try to convey your message in a lot of different ways. Like, instead of having one commercial for your business to try to persuade them to come to you as opposed to your competitor, instead of using one mood and one perspective, try using multiple different perspectives and different moods. Have one advertisement upbeat and fast, have one nice and clean and professional. Different demographics take in advertising in different ways. In conclusion, you need to understand the demographics of your target audience, ensure all language barriers to the extent of your control are eliminated, influence the target audience in different ways using the persuasion knowledge model, empathize with those you are trying to persuade to understand their needs and how you can fill them more completely. Here is a list of my references used in this presentation.